The truth is, I forgot about the tomatoes. A while back, I had done a video on growing microgreens, and I had actually started some tomatoes, Tiny Tim tomatoes, that I also wanted to try and grow in the green station in the basement over the winter. I have forgotten about them. We've cut the microgreens. The microgreens are done. We cut off from all of them, but I forgot about the tomatoes, so I want to check in on them. Well, luckily, they still look fine. They've survived and they've definitely started growing. So these are Tiny Tim tomatoes. I grew these over the summer for the first time and absolutely fell in love with them for two reasons. One, they stay very small. I mean, they literally got up to about a foot tall. You can come in, Meeks. Come in. They got up to about a foot tall and they were completely loaded with tomatoes, little tiny tomatoes, so like grape-sized salad tomatoes kind of concept. So I decided that I wanted to try and grow them in the grow station in the basement this winter. So a concept about tomatoes, and the reason why it is hypothetically possible to grow them in a greenhouse, is that they're self-pollinating. So once the tomatoes start to grow flowers and the flowers open up, essentially all that you need to do is just give them a nice little shake and they will pollinate themselves. It does not require any pollinators such as bees or butterflies to pollinate the flowers to get fruit to grow. So that's what's nice about tomatoes and why hypothetically we should be able to grow them in the grow station in the basement. So I've got 6 Tiny Tim tomatoes here. They have gotten fairly large. Essentially you want to kind of wait until you've got about 2 leaves. 2 sets of leaves on your small tomatoes before you want to up pot them. So these guys look pretty good. I'm going to up pot them just into red solo cups. When you're up potting, you want to make sure that you don't go from like a small space to an extra large space. You'll kind of shock the plant, won't really know what it's doing. Hypothetically, you want to double about the size of whatever they're currently in. For the sake of what we have available, we are using red solo cups. These red solo cups do have holes drilled in the bottom of them, so water will drain without an issue. I've got some potting mix here, so we're going to give this a shot. So the greenhouse isn't exactly perfect right now. We're in a transitional phase. Over here you can see some of my beans that I'm drying out to collect for seed. I'm going to go ahead and get 6 cups ready for us. Now these cups are previously labeled from over the summer. I will just scratch that out and relabel them, but this is really all I'm growing right now, so it shouldn't be hard for me to keep track of what's in there. I'm going to start by potting some of these. Try and gently get them out. I'm going to start with the big guy. So here you can see the root system is starting, very healthy plant. Get some space in here and just kind of drop him in and fill with potting soil. Perfect. When done. Tomatoes are something that we buy a lot of. I regularly eat tomatoes all year round. I do prefer homegrown tomatoes. They tend to taste a lot better, but I'm also the kind of person that literally can't go without eating them. So I will deal with having to purchase them from the grocery store over the winter time, just for the sake of having them. But I think it would be really great to have homegrown tomatoes throughout the winter And once I grew these Tiny Tim tomatoes and realized how bitty they really were, and I realized that it wouldn't take much space for us to be able to grow these here in our grow station in the basement. The amount of fruit that came from these plants was absolutely astounding. They grew to about a foot, foot and a half tall, so the plant themselves was not very big. And eventually, towards the end of the season, it got to the point where it was very hard for the plant to support all of the fruit. So it's something that you definitely have to keep up on. You have to make sure that you're picking it regularly and providing support to the plant as it grows, because it will kind of outgrow itself and get too heavy. Now, when you're growing tomatoes, especially when you're up potting them, you want to keep in mind that you want to continuously bury them fairly deep. If you get a nice close look at this, you can see those fibers there at the end of on the stems of these plants. Each of those fibers hypothetically will turn into roots if you bury them properly. So we really want to make sure that we're getting these plants buried as deep as we possibly can. I actually could probably just pick off these tiny little leaves here at the bottom, and that will allow me to plant it even deeper. So as you can see here, I have the plant in the pot. It's fairly deep to where just the tops of these leaves are sticking out. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour soil in to cover as much of the base of the plant as I possibly can. Probably get a little bit more in there. So now you can see that I've poured soil in just enough for these top leaves to poke out. As the plant continues to grow, you will continue up potting it and making sure that you're burying it sufficiently. I really hope we get tomatoes. Here is our grow light station. There has been a few modifications to it since we did the video on Tyler building it, which I will try to link above. One thing that we did add were these panels here that kind of provide a reflection so that it really condenses the light in the area that we want it to, instead of escaping through the sides here, which you can see what it looks like without those panels. Now on the top here is where we had our microgreens. Those are done. This right here was a volunteer Tiny Tim tomato that we had pulled from the garden bed back in the beginning of the fall when we were tearing out the garden beds. He doesn't look too hot, but he also is really dry. We're gonna just continue to give him a shot. Why not? But then over here, we've got our Tiny Tim tomatoes that I just up potted today. I went ahead and I put them in this tray here. This tray does not have holes in the bottom, so this is going to allow us to water it from the base. The idea here is that you fill the water up in the tray. Each of these cups have holes in the bottom of them so they can absorb the water through the base of the cup. So essentially what you're doing there by watering it from the base is encouraging root growth. So the roots are going to identify that the water is coming from the bottom. They're going to continue to stretch and grow so that they can reach that water from the bottom. And this is going to make sure that you have nice healthy roots. And then down here is some of Tyler's stuff. I think that's ginger. Not sure what those are. And then this here is our little dragon fruit plant that is attempting to survive still. We had to bring him in because it's too cold outside. We didn't have a place prepared for him, so this is where he is for now. What else is really nice about this setup, as you can see, the top shelf here has little space, so if you're starting seeds, something smaller, it's fine up there. As it continues to grow, you can kind of move it down the shelves here, which each of these shelves tend to get a little bit wider as they go, where at the bottom here has the most amount of space for the plant to grow without reaching the light or getting caught up in the lights, essentially. And we'll just go ahead and fill this up so that they get a nice drink, and give some to this little guy over here too. There you have it. Let's hope for some tomatoes. It was really nice out today, and of course by the time that I am able to come out, it's gonna start raining. But oh well, at least I got a few things done. I'm excited for tomatoes. I really hope that that pans out. That would be pretty awesome. So one more thing that I genuinely look forward to every winter is my little bird feeder that I have in the cottage garden out front. The cottage garden in the spring and the summer is so overgrown that there's no way to even get into this bird feeder. So really the winter time is the only time that I can utilize it anymore. It's really neat to be able to have the birds come out here. It's really neat because I can actually see this bird feeder from my kitchen window while I'm doing dishes. So it's nice to be able to have a little bit of company while I am doing dishes or cooking in the kitchen. We do have a squirrel that loves to get to this, and once he gets to it, he ends up taking everything, so I have to fill this up pretty regularly. But I just want to give you guys a shot of this because I think it's cute. It's amazing how different this cottage garden looks in the wintertime. Not much is alive, but I figured since we are taking care of the other birds, we'll go ahead and take care of these birds today too. Here is the sad cottage garden in the wintertime. And here is my bird feeder. We'll get this filled up before the rain comes. It's really hard to see down here, but I figured out a secret to filling up this bird feeder so that it doesn't go all over the floor. So I just stick it in the back and then fill it up this way to try and keep the mess down. It's easier with two hands. Yep, rain's coming. I so miss being outside though. So miss it so much. Ugh. Long winters. For anyone that does bird feeders in a garden, one of the biggest problems is when the seed from the bird feeder falls into your garden, it ends up reseeding, and you've got a ton of weeds to pull. So I do have a little trick that I found that doesn't cut the problem out entirely, but helps a lot. I have this bowl here that I actually got from Free Cycle about a year ago. It's pretty big. And I try to set it right underneath of the bird feeder. That way when the birds come or the squirrel comes and knocks it around, it kind of catches the seeds. They're not falling all over the garden bed. Okay, the rain's coming. I promised that I would share with you guys updates to stuff that we have growing. And with it being Vlogmas, you know, what else better to talk about than potential tomatoes for Christmas? So as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and check out www.grantedgardens.com for more information on Granted Gardens, as well as swag and homemade goods. Ugh.